The coffee is ready if you want it.
Oh. Okay, so this mimer is based on a pasuk in this week's Parashat Tzavim. Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Jewish people, the mitzvah that Hashem commands you is not across the ocean. You need something to go across the ocean to get it. It's not in the sky. You need something to climb to the sky to get it. Rather, this mitzvah that Hashem commands you is not distant from you. It's not wondrously far from you. Instead, it's close to you very much to keep it in your mouth, in your heart, and to perform it begashmis physically in your thoughts, speech, and action. So what mitzvah is this referring to? So the commentaries differ about this. Some commentaries say this is referring to the mitzvah. On the surface, this mitzvah Hashem commands you is not distant from you. It's referring to all mitzvahs. But the Ramban says specifically it's referring to the mitzvah of tshuva. Mitzvah of tshuva is not distant from you. Let's see now
Why is he using the word mitzvah instead of mitzvahs?
That's a good question. I don't know. But the in Tanya clearly Alter Rebbe says it's referring to the simple translation of the pasuk, which is all of Yiddishkeit. The Torah, because Moshe introduces the Torah Hashem commands you is not in the sky, it's not across the ocean. So he continues and says, Kikorav Yelech. So he's talking about all of Yiddishkeit. Oh, the Rebbe asked a question. The Rebbe asked you a question. Let's see. Well, let's go. Let's go inside. This mitzvah that I command you today is not distant, is not wondrously far from you. And it's not far away from you. And Moshe Rabbeinu concludes and says, rather, that it is very close to you, in your mouth and in your heart to perform it. The Alter Rebbe asks, why does it say this individual mitzvah? Why doesn't it sounds like it's referring to one mitzvah and not referring to the whole Torah? When on the surface, the simple meaning of the pasuk, it is referring to the whole Torah. Oh, wow. Please say you're not coming today.
I know. Especially plans of ice and men, Afghan Goy.
So it should have said, all the mitzvahs Hashem commands you aren't distant from you. Why does it say this mitzvah? That's what leads probably the Nachmanides to say it refers to one mitzvah, the mitzvah of Shuvah. Either way, the question is, according to the other explanation, the one that we're learning, it refers to all mitzvahs. Why does it say this mitzvah Hashem commands? And why does it emphasize and say the mitzvah that I, Anochi, command you? Why is it emphasizing regarding this mitzvah, whatever this mitzvah means? This is a mitzvah that comes from Anochi, that comes from Hashem himself. It's as opposed to a usual expression on Torah, mitzvahs of Yud Kevavke, mitzvahs of Hashem, mitzvahs of I, of Ani. Here the Torah uses the word Anochi, which is the same word the Torah uses when Hashem gives us a Torah. Umamshech, so the Alter Rebbe explains, when God first began the Ten Commandments, he started with the same words, and Zev comes in on cue, Anochi v'yalkecha. I, Hashem, am your God. And move on. The whole introduction that Hashem gives to the Ten Commandments with the same word, Onechi, seems to be peculiar. When a human being says, I am who I am, hi, my name is Dr. Bressman, so you know who he is. You see him, you see what he looks like, and he says, this is my name. But the Eibishter, he is saying the same thing. He says, I know who I am Hashem Elokecha. When a person introduces themselves, they're talking about their physical presence. You know who I am, you see me, I am this, I am not just their physical presence, but their whole being. They're referring to what you see. But Hashem, who knows thought, can grasp Hashem. no, there not only can no thought grasp Hashem in general, but this pasuk is referring to God's essence. It's talking about the essence of Hashem and saying the essence of Hashem is called. Hashem introduces himself as, you know who Anochi, you know who I am Hashem Elokecha. It sounds like that you're able to identify Hashem the following way. There is Anochi, there is God himself. And you want to know who God himself is, he's defining himself by the words Hashem Elokecha. We don't know who Anochi is. Anochi refers to God's essence. So, especially the way the Zohar says that the words Anochi are some things which, the reason that word is a reference to God's essence that cannot be conveyed with any letter, with any part of a letter. So, we don't know who Anochi is. We don't know who Hashem says I. We don't know who is referring. We don't understand Hashem. Have no thought and grasp Hashem. So, how can Hashem introduce himself and say, "Oh, you know who I am? I am I, who you know who I am. I am. This is my name. My name is Avayel Kef." It sounds like we know who Anochi is. We don't know who Anochi is. No thought and grasp Hashem. The next paragraph. It sounds like that the pasuk is trying to tell us the Torah mitzvahs is not distant. It's not wondrously far. It sounds like that if the Torah wouldn't have told us this, we would have thought that the Torah was far. The Torah was a wonder and something we could not possibly reach. And therefore, the Torah has to tell us something novel and tell us, no, the Torah isn't distant. The Torah isn't far. Every pasuk, the Gemara says, why do we need a pasuk if it's logical? So it sounds like that our logic would have led us to say the Torah is very distant, very far. And the pasuk tells me it's not. You say
You see, our logic says always, this is for the tzaddikim, this is for the Rebbe to do. This is
so
even with this, we still say it.
MS, that's what we say. But let's see how the Rebbe explains the question. Let's see that at the end of the question. Even the pasuk's negating how the Torah isn't distant, the Torah qualifies and says it's not distant from you. It's not wondrously far from you. That means, but it is distant. It is wondrous. Just from you, it's not distant. It's not understood. Next page. If God gave us a Torah, so obviously it's not distant from us. Obviously it's not impossible for us. Why did God give it to us if it was something we couldn't handle? It's illogical to say that the Torah is distant and far from us. So why would we think that had Hashem not told it to us specifically? If Hashem gave us the Torah, it's obviously, like the Gemara says, God doesn't play tricks with his creatures. So why does the Torah have to tell me that it's not wondrous and it's not distant? If it was, God wouldn't have given it to us. And although the Torah says about itself that it's considered God's delight and it's something which is beyond just something that's given to human beings, it's something which is called God's pleasure. But Hashem gave it to us. So if Hashem gave it to us, so then obviously it's not impossible. If it was impossible, Hashem wouldn't have given it to us. We also need to understand the conclusion of Moshe Rabbeinu's sentence is, it's not distant, it's not far. Rather, it's close to you very much to keep this. Rashi explains what is the Torah emphasizing by saying it's close to you. It's written, and there's an oral tradition about what it means. What is the relevance of the Torah being written down, the Torah being orally transmitted, to this idea of the Torah not being far from you? That's the Rebbe's question. I was thinking, Stam, that maybe the simple meaning is that if we had to interpret the Torah and not know what the Torah meant, so then the Torah will be very distant from us. Like some people feel like there's not enough guidance in the Torah to how to apply it to our lives, and they don't, and they speak disparagingly about various rabbis, and they say, oh, there's a problem over here. God gave us this Torah, and we don't know how to interpret it. So Moshe tells them, no, it's written down, and there's a tradition how to interpret it, and Hashem gave us the tools to interpret it. That's what I would have understood on the surface, but apparently that answer isn't a good answer. The Rebbe is asking that that's not sufficient. Rashi's saying that the Torah is written down, Torah is oral, doesn't satisfy the Torah's emphasis that it's close to you. What the Torah seems to be saying something more than just that it's written down and there's oral tradition. It's saying it's very close to you. Perhaps what the Rebbe is pointing to is what the relevance of Torah to our lives. Like, just because it's written down and just because it's already transmitted, Moshe is saying a lot more. Moshe is saying is that the Torah is something to tell you every single moment of your life. It tells you in days of slichas you have to get up earlier, right? And you don't necessarily want to get up earlier. Moshe says to you, it's close to you in your mouth and in your heart that you will love whatever it does in Torah all the time. The Torah is a message from you from the moment you're born till 120 years, and before that you're born and after you pass away. And yet, Moshe says it's close to you. Everything the Torah says is relevant to you. You're interested in it. You love it. It's close to your heart. So how could that be when there's some things in Torah that we like and we don't like? That's the Alter asks in time. So perhaps that's what the Rebbe's question here. Rashi says that why is it close to you? Just because it's written down, just because it's already transmitted, it doesn't make it close to you. It doesn't make it relevant. It doesn't make it interesting. It doesn't make it attractive. So these are our questions. Question again, number one is, how come Hashem is introducing himself with I am Hashem Elokecha in the Seres HaDibros and Ten Commandments, as if we know who the I is, and he says, you know who I am? I'm going to tell you my name. We don't know who I is. When a human being introduces himself, he says, I am, and he tells you his name. So also need to understand why the Pasuk says that the Torah isn't distant. Of course it's not distant. Otherwise, why would Hashem give it to us? So what's the Torah emphasizing by saying it's not distant? And a sub-question to this is, it sounds like it is distant. So it says it's not distant from you. It's not wondrously far from you. It sounds like it naturally is wondrous and is distant. And last question is, Rashi says, how come the Torah is not distant? Because it's written down, because it's orally transmitted. How does that explain why it's so close to us?
Also the question why it's in singular language, no?
Yes, very good. Thank you. Yeah, very good. Why is it if Moshe Rabbeinu is referring to the whole entire Torah, why does he say only this mitzvah is not distant from you? He's referring to all the mitzvahs. Why does it say mitzvah in the singular?
Where's it? That's not going to be
It's going to be in the lobby.
Downstairs?
In the lobby, right when you come to the show, in the lobby. You can hop around a few minutes before we start. Oh, it's already 6:45.
I mean here.
What?
I mean here.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Close. There's explanations like this. In the place, the Torah is naturally wondrous. The Torah is naturally something, intrinsically, is something which is wondrous. And it's not just distant, not just far, it's wondrously far, meaning it's something which is in a whole different realm. I shall say it because of the Torah is, in this verse, is addressing what Torah is in a step-by-step fashion. The order of this verse is similar to the order in the next verse. The Torah says the Torah is not in the heaven, and it's not across the ocean. That verse also is going in a certain order. First, the Torah says it's not in the heaven. Then it says it's not across the ocean. What's easier, to get to heaven, across the ocean? Getting across the ocean is a lot easier than getting to heaven. Walking to the sky is impossible. So first the Torah says it's not impossible. And then it says it's not across the ocean. So the Torah is going in the order of not only A, but also B. Not only is the Torah not in heaven, it's also not across the ocean. Like the Gemara says that if someone makes a condition on a promise or on a marriage, and he says, this will be valid on the condition that I walk to the sky. So that's not considered a condition because it's impossible. However, when the Torah says about itself, that the Torah isn't across the ocean. It's possible to travel across the ocean, but it's just very difficult. So just like in the other verse, the Torah talks about the ocean and the sky. It first is addressing something which is more obvious, and then it addresses something which is less obvious. So too in this verse is the Torah going in an order of above to below. It's first addressing the Torah is not wondrously far from you, not impossible to you. First, the Torah says about itself in this verse, don't say that Torah is wondrously far from you. Rashi translates what's the word nifles. Nifles means it's completely concealed from you. Don't think Torah is completely concealed from you. That's the first thing the Torah says about itself. Don't think that it's impossible. Then the Torah adds and says, they should tell them to catch the Jews.
You may want to go downstairs and be the organizer. Otherwise, there'll be 10 lost people.
As soon as we get the Jews.
As soon as you
catch the Jews as they're coming in, we'll join you. So, first the Torah says it's not wondrously far from you. And Rashi says that means it's not completely hidden from you. Completely hidden means that it's in a different realm. It's completely hidden. So Torah says it's not in a different realm. So just like in the other verse, first the Torah says it's not impossible, it's not in the sky, and then it says it's not hard, it's not across the ocean. Also in this verse, the first Torah says it's not wondrously far from you, and then the Torah adds and says it's not just distant, it's not distant from you. It first addresses something which is more obvious, it's not impossible, and then it says it's not far.
It's kind of like bringing it closer to you. At first, it's not in the heavens. No, it's not even
across the ocean.
Right, blowing me by. It's
it
brings it closer to you.
Right. Not only is it not in the heavens, it's not even across the ocean. And so too in this verse, not only is it not wondrously far from you, it's not even distant. Distant means that it's in Chassidus. Difference between distant and wondrously far is it in the realm of revelation or is it beyond something which the realm of revelation? So the word nifles means it's wondrously far from you. It's in a different realm. It's not, distant means that it's in the realm of revelation, but it's higher than what you can handle. But it's still in your realm. So the Torah says both. It's not in a different realm and it's not distant. What the Torah really is saying is the Torah naturally is distant and the Torah naturally is hidden, but Hashem gave you the Torah. It's not distant from you. It's not wondrously far from you. There is an element of Torah which is beyond revelation. There is an element of Torah which is in the realm of revelation just higher than what a human being can handle. And Hashem says, despite the fact that that's what Torah is naturally, I have given the Torah to you. You, my child, you Jewish person, I have written the Torah down, and I have given the Torah orally, and therefore it's possible for you to be able to appreciate it. So
maybe the Avamina would be that since the Rebbein Shalom is not understood, it's impossible to understand the Rebbein Shalom. It's not even. So maybe we would think the Torah is also not possible to understand. It's his Torah, therefore we can't understand it. So maybe that's the necessity of that statement.
They were saying something else. They were saying, even though you got the Torah, you should know that Torah is a different realm from you. The Torah is something which is infinite. Torah is something which is beyond. It is wondrous. It is distant. But from you, it's not wondrous. From you, it's not distant. Even though Torah is impossibly higher than revelation.
So is this something that Hashem made in the person? In other words, the Torah is the Torah. And Hashem made the person capable of Is that what it's
That
saying?
doesn't explain how this works. That's we'll probably read further. But the fact is that although the Torah is infinite and you're not, the Torah is naturally wondrous and you're not, the Torah is naturally distant. But
So naturally, it's far from you.
right. Hashem says, from you it's not. From you it's not. The Torah naturally is wondrous and is distant. It's beyond revelation. And it's a higher kind of revelation, another element of Torah. But from you it's not. So you have met the Mayidua. Understands it first prefacing the concept of the entire spiritual cosmos, all of the different elements that I want to see how he's doing all this.
The Old Testament is the most popular book published in the world
Right.
by far.
Right.
Yet the rest of the world, this is the boat.
Right.
You don't have that natural information to.
Unfortunately, it's also the most misquoted, mistranslated, misexplained book in the world.
Yeah.
And I think the Torah is actually made of it. As we see, it says Shivim Panamatorah. There's 70 ways of explaining it, but even within Judaism.
Mhm.
So there is, but it's also totally an opportunity is there to do that.
Right.
Because Hashem could have said, this is the table.
This is it.
This is it, but it doesn't say that.
Yeah.
Most of the time, anyway.
Okay. So
It said that Torah points out the Torah is actually the most printed, published, known book in the world.
Uh-huh.
And also misquoted,
most misinterpreted book in the world.
misinterpreted book in the world.
Yeah.
And the opportunity is within it.
So, just to conclude with the first point of the next section of Maimer, the Rebbe says that all matters of the entire spiritual cosmos, everything that was produced through Hashem's Tzimtzum, through Hashem hiding Himself, everything is called by the title of man. Just like a human being has many limbs and many different faculties, so too all of the everything that exists in the spiritual cosmos has a parallel to a man in the sense that it has a form and a definition. To be continued.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we have your way.
You're never in my way.
No. If we could somehow find shlichus in this little program, then maybe I could do it. Otherwise, I can't read on these nights.
And what?
If we could possibly find shlichus